So welcome. I'm so glad you're both here, and more people will probably come and go. And I love that people come when they can, because I switched it from lunchtime to dinner time or after dinner, depending on where you live. It might be just after work if you're on the West Coast. The model for the program is that we all just get together and sort of tell each other where we're from and what kind of animals we have. And this program started, since both of you are new, this program started March 31st when we were all in shelter and lockdown. I had had a program like this up and running, but I decided to switch it off and have it go, instead of once a month, every week, because we really didn't understand the impact of COVID on our animals. So it was important for me to help people navigate how to care for their pets in this time, because I used to teach people. Hey, Connie, how are you?
I am fine, thank you, Deborah. How are you?
I'm good. I was just explaining what this program and how we put together, because Connie's been here since the bitter beginning, or, well, it was bitter because we were all suffering with COVID, so it was bitter.
That's right.
So, but I put it together because most people didn't realize that A, they needed a plan for their pets in the event they got sick. B, they needed a plan that was in their state. I realized that because I've taught this class now since 2014. Connie's one of the people who've put a MAAP plan together. And I realized, wow, I never made it so important to have a neighbor be able to come in and take care of your pets if something happens to you, until someone can get to you. Because everybody could just travel from state to state, right? So one of my people is in Connecticut. I live in New York, not that far away, maybe 45 minutes. The other one's in Maryland, 3 hours away, not that far. But when New York shut down, they couldn't get to New York. And so I said, wow, I really have to address that. So that's what we have matriculated. There are recordings of all of these interviews, all these community meetings where we chat. And if you'd like them, you're more than welcome to email me or write me and get them. We've been doing it, as I said, since March 31st. Every Wednesday. We started on Tuesdays, moved it to Wednesday because it was more convenient for the people who are coming. And now we switched it to the evening. Connie is in California, and I'm in New York.
I'm in California too.
Oh, great. So
Southern.
I'm in California too.
Wow, I am so thrilled.
Palos Verdes, where are you all?
Yeah.
I'm in Lomita.
Oh my God.
Hi, neighbor.
I'm in North San
And where are you, Betty?
North San Diego County.
Yeah, know it well.
Okay.
So you're all in Southern California, and I have a son who's in North Hollywood, so not so far away from you as well. Yep.
Small world.
Very small world. And of course, Connie and I often talk about the plans you have to make in the event of fire, because before COVID, the things I addressed were fire and hurricanes and things like that. Know how to get your animals out, know how to get far enough away with a hurricane so that when the storm surge comes, you're okay.
Right.
Fire, it's, I just saw a horse on one of the horse rescue groups that I am part of that said, this horse was encased in sort of like, I don't know if you show dogs, but if you do, you put a coat on them so that their coat lays down flat. Well, that's what the nylon coat. He was in leggings and a coat and over his ears, because that was how they were treating the burns that he had from the fire. And people who have horses and parrots and things like that, these are animals that are not easily rehomed. So you really do have to make a plan for the care of the pets. So it is 7:01, so I'm going to start right now. I welcome all of you. What I first do is I introduce myself. So I'm Deborah Hamilton of Hamilton Law Mediation, and the reason I started this program is because I broke my ankle in 2013 and had 9 dogs. And so, hi, Lori, welcome. I'm just giving the overview of why this program started. So I had given this talk maybe once a month until COVID hit. And I broke my ankle in 2013 with 9 dogs, and my husband advised me that, in fact, he was taking care of me and not my dogs. And I said, holy Toledo, I got to feed my dogs, and they eat in the basement because I have a beautiful kennel in my old house, not this house. And so now my husband will be talking and screaming in the background because, that's what they do, because he knows this is what I'm doing, but it's okay. It's life in the fast lane. So anyway, I realized that I probably wasn't the only person on earth, and Connie knows this story, that has an issue with making a plan for your pets. I don't know, we're going to get to all of you to hear your story. But for me, I'm in the Irish setter world. Everybody helps their countrymen. If something happens, we come and help. Well, that's sort of by the seat of your pants. It really is. It's by the seat of your pants, and you're hoping that the people who take your dogs are the ones you want to take your dogs. So I've created this program that navigates the journey your pet takes when you can't care for it. And hi, Paula, nice to see you.
Hi there.
I created this program because I want to make sure that everyone's dog, cat, bird, horse, lizard, any reptiles, any fish, go to the people they want them to go to, or at least have a place to go. So I created this program. It's been refined over the years. And of course, once COVID hit, I realized just how many loopholes there were, because I didn't realize you had to have a neighbor, because you couldn't go out of your state. And you really had to have a plan that was stuck up on the window. So if they were coming to your house, because that's what's happened here in New York, and I'm sure it's happening in California, animal care and control are coming to the houses of people who have been admitted with COVID and have had to stay in the hospital and maybe live alone or whatever, and taking their animals out and putting them in a shelter because they can't stay in the house alone. And there's nothing up that says, by the way, don't take my dog to a shelter. It seems counterintuitive, but if you don't have something easily readable for someone to see, either because you're taken to the hospital because you've fallen down and you can't get up, or you have COVID, or you are driving and have a car accident, your dogs will go to the shelter. And I know that I like to try not to have my dogs visit a shelter. It may be the only place they can go if they have to get off the road, if I've had a car accident, but I like to know who's going to come and get them. And so that's what this program has been set up to do, to give you all these little tidbits. And if you want to create an entire MAAP plan, Rose will put the link in the conversation. You can take a screenshot of it. It's Hamilton Law Mediation /MAAP Blueprint, because I put up all the information. All you have to do is fill it out. And it's a wonderful program. So without further ado, I'm going to start with Connie so everybody doesn't feel pressured. And she's going to tell us why she's here and how long she's been here and how she's one of my staunchest supporters.
Well, actually, Deborah and I met because we're both legislative liaisons to the AKC for our National Parent Breed Clubs. I have another crazy Irish breed, soft-coated Wheaten Terriers. In fact, 3 generations of them, grandma, mom, and 17-month-old son, are all asleep at my feet. But I became very interested in it just as part of normal estate planning, but then it became very real for me when my husband had 3 strokes 2.5 years ago. And we have a horrible family tragedy going on, but I am single at this point. So it became very, very imperative for me to have a backup plan. And Deborah worked with, in fact, my estate attorney to make sure that the MAAP plan as an emergency plan sits outside all my estate planning, in case Deborah had a broken leg and she was going to recover, but what do you do in the meantime? And then of course, the eventuality of everyone's demise, you got to have some place to make sure that your dogs are taken care of, or your pets. So that's how I got here. And of course, all of you living in Southern California know what we've been going through just the past couple of weeks with all the fires. So when you got to get out, when the fire department knocks on your door and says, lady, you got 5 minutes to get out, you have to have not only a plan for throwing all the animals in the car, but you have to have a place to go.
Yeah.
And people to take them if you have to be in a shelter.
Right, exactly. It's so important, and if you have the MAAP plan, it sits outside your trust and estate, which sort of trust and estate attorneys love working with me because they don't ever want to help somebody find the caregivers for their pets. But you can not only have the caregivers for your pets, but you can change the pets without having to change your trust and estate documents, which saves you a heck of a lot of money, which is why I do it. But thank you so much, Connie. Why don't we start with Patty? Tell us where you are. You're in northern San Diego, and what kind of animals do you have?
I have at the moment 2 golden retrievers and a horse. And I've always been concerned about what will happen to them afterwards. But my situation's changed in that people that I depended on, one moved to the East Coast and one is now divorced and her life has changed. So it's all in flux. So now I'm really concerned about if something happens to me and my husband, where would my dogs go? And the horse is a special case. And I would love to get your advice on this. He was a meat auction rescue.
Yep.
And we fostered him, and we're foster failures. That was 3 years ago. And he's a wonderful horse. He's drop dead gorgeous. I haven't yet tried to ride him. He was horribly abused and neglected and emaciated when we rescued him. But he's got a huge personality, but he's very difficult to handle. It requires very special handling. And I could never trust anybody to take him. And so my thoughts were, okay, let's assume I'm single at some point. The horse is 9. My husband's 8 years older than I am. So let's assume I'm single and something happens to me. I cannot, in good conscience, pass this horse on to somebody. I think he'd end up back in the slaughter pipeline. Yeah. And so is it reasonable upon my demise to demand that he is euthanized at that time as well?
Well, I'm so glad you absolutely have brought up the horse thing, because I work with horse rescues that are incredibly vigilant. So when you're talking about horses, affiliating yourself, if you don't have anyone nearby, which you can sometimes find someone nearby who can help you with the horse, but you always want to have, and Connie knows this, you want to have at least 3 people, because you need that redundance, so that if somebody promises you that they're going to take care of your horse, there are 2 other people watching that they're taking care of your horse, so that they know that if you're not taking care of the horse, well, then Susie steps in, and if Susie can't do it, then Mary steps in. So I'm so glad you're here, because we're going to cover that, because I'll tell you what the MAAP stands for, but I'm so glad you're here, because we're going to go through that in a minute. But let me get through everybody, if you don't mind. Do you mind? You don't mind. Perfect. So then let's go to Paula. I love your white cat. I have a gray grandkitty.
Hi, I'm Paula. I'm in South Carolina, in case you can't tell by the dialect. And I am single, turning 65 this coming year.
65 young.
Yes. Finally get Medicare to help with the medical bills.
That's right.
But I have 2 silver shaded Persians, and they, luckily, if something were to happen to me, the breeder will take them back.
Wonderful.
But she used to live within less than 2 hours from me. Now she's not in the program anymore and living about 6 hours away. And not everybody I know who has cats knows how to take care of Persians. And Truffle and Brûlée are half sisters. They are bonded. Yeah. So I do get worried about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's such a perfect example of how I help people do this, because if you have animals that either have to stay together or can't be with other pets, you have to talk about what the needs of the pets are. And Paula did that. So that was great. And you're doing it because they should stay together. So we would work with the breeder and say, okay, so do you have anybody that you sold cats to nearby, so that, and not Paula, sorry, Patty, so that we can make sure that the people who take them know how to care for them, and that there are enough people nearby, because I'm sure that your breeder probably has people who she's connected with nearby you, maybe nearer than she is. But if she's like me, so I'm a breeder of Irish setters. I have Irish setters all over the country, and I just fly to get them because I'm crazy. But some breeders are like me and will fly to get their dogs, but they sometimes have people who've had dogs or cats from them, who will then call and say, listen, I have a dog or a cat. And so they already know how to take care of them, and they can be connected. But unless you ask, and unless you set that program up, it's not going to happen when you want it to happen, when you need it to happen. So thank you so much. So you just have the two Persians. Are they both the same color, white?
They're the white with the silver tips, or the silver shaded Persian.
They are really beautiful.
Yeah.
They are really beautiful.
Brulé has actually the red nose with the black outliner, which is eyeliner, which is more like the standard.
Right.
Truffle has the black nose, which is not standard, but it makes her unique.
Oh, she's so pretty.
Thank you. You just gave me a really good idea, because I know Terry did have some people who were in the Columbia area, which is where I'm near, that did get cats. So I will talk to her about getting those contacts.
I have to tell you that's why I have this community call, because as Connie will tell you, I come up with really good ideas that help people do it themselves, or if they need help, I can help them. But, you know, what you have to do is you have to take the time to know, and it does take time. I mean, we're in September already. I started this in March, and several people have come and gone on the program and not always done what it was that they needed to do. But I'm always here, and I'm always supportive, and I'm always going to help you. So let's go to Renee, because you were one of the first ones on, Renee. Thank you so much. And you're in California, too. What do you have, and what brings you here?
Well, I've actually been following you for a couple of years online. I forget how I originally found you, but I saw your MAAP blueprint, and I thought, oh my God, everybody has to have this. How do I get it? How do I get everybody to have it?
Yeah.
I own and operate a pet sitting business. And so.
And you're the first line of defense for most people. So they're going to put your name down, and how many dogs or cats can you take?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm actually kind of getting close to facing that right now with one of my senior clients. You know, so it's kind of like, holy cow, you know, people, I keep trying to talk to them about it, you know, having an emergency contact in case something happens while I'm there and they're on vacation is one thing, but having a guardianship form and having this whole MAAP plan in place it's the whole nother level that really needs to be there.
If you really care for your pets, absolutely.
Even for myself, I don't have that, you know.
Well,
and
I'm hoping that the MAAP plan creates the pathway to making a will. Well, that's what I'm hoping.
I have 6 cats, so finding somebody who will take all 6 cats will be a miracle.
Yeah. But you know, I said, I work with so many people, and wherever the cats came from, you can always work with those people if it's a breeder or if it's a rescue. But also there are people who want to have older bonded cats come into their life, so that it's you know, cats. I love cats, and I've never had a cat because my husband is allergic, but I would if I could. And now, as I said, I have a grandkitty. But I know cats don't move as easily as dogs do, and I think dogs have a little bit of a moment too. However, you know, people who know cats, if you connect with them, they know how to help cats transition.
Right. Yeah.
So do you do dogs and cats, Renee?
I do dogs and cats, bunnies, you name it. I grew up in PV with horses, so yeah.
Yeah. And you know, the people with horses are sort of like the worst, and I sit there, not you, Patty, you're not the worst. People, because they sort of think that everybody's just going to come and take care of their horse, and they will for a few weeks. Like here in New York, people took care of dogs. They were left in apartments by people who went to the hospital to see if they were sick, and they were admitted, because we were the first state to have the crap beat out of us by COVID. And after 2 weeks, they called animal care and control and said, listen, I can't take care, like you said, I can't take care of the dog for more than 2 weeks or whatever. And then they were taken to the shelter. And so this is what you want to do. You want to make a plan. So I've checked in with Patty. I've checked in with Renee. I've checked in with Paula. Who is the 972 number?
Oh, that's me. I'm Judy. I'm in Dallas.
Hi, Judy. Nice to have you here. What we're doing is we're talking about where we're from and what animals we have and what brought us here.
Well, Deborah, as I say, I'm in Dallas, and I've had Irish setters all my life. I've got a 2.5-year-old rescue, and my situation has changed as far as a normal situation. You know, if I passed on under non-COVID circumstances, I do have 2 people set up to take care of Riley and have her with them. But Texas has been hard hit by COVID.
Yep, you're getting what we had. Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Texas has been hard hit, and as you know, we're one of the states that nobody wants to see people from. We'd have to quarantine to come and see you in New York, or my family in Connecticut. So, and the breeder that here in Texas that I've used is really overwhelmed at the moment, and I just don't have anyone under this circumstance, and my family can't come in from Connecticut or Arizona to take care of her because of the quarantine situation.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, Judy, because that was what I said at the beginning. I have had this MAP plan since 2014, and I had to really, that's why I started this call every Wednesday. I've been doing it since March 31st.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know I'm interrupting you, but no. I was unfamiliar with MAP until I got your email through ISCA today. So forgive me for being so ignorant.
No, you're not ignorant. Please. No. I mean, I am so grateful that I donate so much of my time to helping people make these plans because I had this plan since 2014 and people were getting it and it was great. But then I realized once COVID hit in May, which is why I started this group, so much has changed in how I even approach the MAP plan now, because as I said, you have to have somebody in your neighborhood. And I'll tell you what I did in my neighborhood, and maybe this will give you some peace of mind so you can do it too. So I walk my dogs now in my neighborhood because I moved to a smaller house and I'm in a neighborhood. And I just looked at all the houses that had dogs. And I put a 3x5 card in all of their mailboxes and said, if anything happens to you, this is my name, this is my address, this is my telephone number, call me and I will take care of your dog for as long as you need me to take care of your dog. I'll take care of it in your house, so you're going to have to, tell me where the hidden key is, but I will take care. And of the 10 people that I put 3x5 cards in their mailboxes, all 10 came to me, thanked me so much, and then offered to do the same for me. Which was, if I'm totally honest, the underlying crux of why I did it. I wanted to know that there are people in this neighborhood that could come and take care of my dogs if, in fact, they needed me.
What a great idea. Yeah. That is fabulous. Because, and I've got a good neighborhood, but that would not have occurred to me, Deborah.
Right, because, like you, Judy, all my people are out of state. I said this at the beginning. I don't know if you came in a little bit later, and that's
No, I didn't get in right away.
Yeah, no problem. So all my people were in Connecticut, Maryland, and like Texas now, and like South Carolina now, California's still there. New York, at least, we sort of flattened the curve.
Thank God.
Yes, you have Andrew Cuomo, that's why.
Yeah, well, that's true, and he definitely was
you bet.
But we are 1%, and we've been 1% for over, I think, 14 weeks. So we've been really lucky.
Because you were smart.
Yeah. But during, the beginning in March and April and May, nobody could come to New York and nobody could leave New York. So I was like, holy Toledo, right. If something happens to my husband, because this is what Connie said at the beginning. So she made the MAP plan because something happened to her husband and she wanted to take care of her husband and she needed somebody to take care of her dog. So she said, wow, I better make this plan to make sure that I have somebody I can call, not because I've fallen down and I can't get up, but my husband's fallen down and he can't get up and I have to help him. And I remember that was so important to me when my husband broke his shoulder. I had built my MAP plan, of course, because, you know, the shoemaker has to have shoes. So I had my MAP plan, and I called the people who were the ones who took care of my dogs and were on the list when I'm taking care of my husband, because, you know, when you're a caretaker of someone, it is absolutely draining. So you really need somebody to help you with your, I mean, it's very draining. So really quick before we run out of time, I just want to tell you guys what MAP stands for. So the first, the M is for make a plan. So you have to sit down and make a plan. And you're all going to get my ebook, which goes through this. So it's not like you have to take notes. You'll get my ebook. It tells you what the MAAP stands for, so you can do it. So you have to make a plan. So you have to think about what it is you'd like, and then come back to these calls if you'd like and say, Deborah, but what do I do about this, or what do I do about that? And like going to your neighbors, I have these abilities to think of things to do that will help you. Second letter is A, and that means you need to address the needs of your pet. So as Patty said, she has a rescue horse who is from, you know, the Knacker's barn. He had a lot of things going on. He's a lovely, wonderful horse, but he needs a special person. We have to spend some time now figuring out who is in her area that is really on top of making sure that rescue horses go to good homes, and that if something happens, they take them back. And then if they need help, they're right there. I mean, I always work with these rescue organizations like Gerda and the other ones are slipping out of my pea brain. But I always say to them, you have to make sure that you keep in touch with these people, which is what Patty's worried about, because you want to keep in touch with these people so that you know they're taking good care of the horse that you've just rehabilitated. It is imperative. You don't want to put that horse back. And I always say, if anybody has one of the pit bull breeds, if they don't have a MAP plan, that dog has less than 0 chance of making it if something happens to them. So I'm always working with bully breeds. So if you know any bully breed clubs or people who own them, have them come next Wednesday, because it is imperative for them to make a plan. So M is make a plan. A is address the needs of your pet. So Paula said to us, you know, these are a bonded pair. They'd like to stay together. And you know, Connie's dogs, they have to stay together. Maybe the grandmother would like to go somewhere else so she could get rid of the grandson, but alas.
Yes. Really,
I know. My dog, I don't know if you saw, but my dog went to camp, and the old girl here is like doing the jig. She's happy as a clam because he's
oh yeah, oh absolutely.
Yeah, he's in hunting camp. So so you have to address the needs of the pet, and then you have to appoint caregivers, and that's key, and that's sometimes the hardest thing to figure out. But like I said, if you ask your neighbors, if you offer, I once had a guy in I talk at the Atria and at the the Briar or whatever it's called, you know, some of those independent living facilities that allow 20-pound dogs. I talk there all the time, and they all say to me, well, we don't have anybody, we don't know anybody, nobody wants. I said, do you walk the dog? And they go, yeah. I said, do you see people walking dogs? And they go, yeah. I said, ask them. I said, listen, if something happened to me, would you take my dog? And he goes, yeah, but I don't want to take their dog. And I said, well, sometimes it's not quid pro quo. Sometimes they'll, you know, help you out if they're younger, like I would help. Like I put the cards in the mailboxes of my neighbors because I truly want to help them out. So you appoint caregivers. There have to be 3. I'm telling you, there has to be 3, and only 1 can be a family member, because if it's you who's sick or if it's your family member who's sick, you really need somebody outside that circle to care for your dogs when you can't, because you're taking care of someone or because you're the one who's ill. And also because I am like a redundant nut. Connie knows this, because when I worked with her attorney, her trusted estate attorney, I kept saying 3, 3, 3, and she kept going, but you know, 1 or 2 is enough. I said, no, 3. I said, because you have to know that there's someone watching the caregiver. It is so important. And the caregiver has to know there's somebody, if they become overwhelmed, like Renee said, I'm just about going to be overwhelmed. So Renee is only 1. And then maybe there's a dog walker that Renee can work with, or an animal behaviorist, or someone who would say, okay, so I'll give you a break. These are people that you think about that make it so important to have people as backup. You know what? We get sick too. The people who are caregiving for your dog or your cat, or the people who are the next people, they get sick too. And the last one is publish, because people make these plans and they never tell anybody about them. They put them in a drawer. And then when, you know, the people come, if God forbid you're ill, I always say that people want to put all their pet care plans in their will. And so I'm going to be incredibly irreverent, and I apologize, but just make sure you die. Because if you don't die, all the plans in your will don't come to fruition. You just have to make sure you die. And I've given this program at the Irish Center Club of America a number of the local clubs. And if there's one, there's 4 people who walk up to me and go, Deborah, this was a great talk, and I have everything done in my will. And I said, I get it, and I'm so glad you have it in your will, and that's phenomenal. However, if you don't die, it's useless to you. Because if you have a stroke, if you have Alzheimer's, I always comment when I see the cancer commercials and they have a person with Neulasta staying home with their dog. You know, they're always petting their, well, one of them is a Shetland sheepdog and another one is a little dog. I don't remember what kind. And I go, yeah, and when you're, so my mom had bone cancer, and so she was sicker than a dog, but my dogs were with her, but she wasn't taking care of them. They were on the bed with her. They were giving her love and affection, but she could no more feed them or walk them than fly to the moon. And so when you have these kind of things occur, you need to make sure you publish that, okay, so Connie is the first person who's going to come take care of my dogs, and then Renee, and then Paula. They're going to come take care of my dogs. And Renee and Paula and Connie know about each other, right? So if Paula says, you know, I can't do it, she'll call Connie and say, you know, I can't do it. And Connie will say, okay, I can. Or she'll call Renee and Renee can. You know, so there's always somebody who knows the plan. And I always share the plan with everyone. So, you know, the other people you have to share with, believe it or not, is your veterinarian and your attorney. Because if people don't know you have this plan, it will not be followed. So your attorney has to know about it, and your veterinarian needs to know about it. Why? Because your veterinarian will not be allowed to take care of your pet unless that person's name, the 3 of them, are in the file. Because there's a veterinary client requirement in veterinary medicine that if they don't have a client veterinary relationship, or they haven't been approved to allow Renee to bring my dog, or Connie to bring my dog, or Paula to bring my dog, they can't. They're not supposed to. They often do, but they're not supposed to unless their name is in the file. So it's make a plan, address the needs of your pet, appoint caregivers, and publish. And I know I'm giving you guys a lot of information, and I know at half hour this time of night. I'll talk for about 5 or 10 more minutes if you want. If you've got to go, I understand. You'll get this recording, so you'll be able to listen to it again. But the other thing that I have been stressing, and Connie, right, I've been like a maniacal nut about putting a card in your car when you're driving with your pets or not, and a card on your back door, front door, refrigerator that says, my dogs do not have to go to the shelter. Please call one of these 3 numbers and someone will come and take care of my dogs, or my cats for Paula, or my horse for Patty. Because unless it is right there in front of their face where they can't miss it, they are taking your animals to a shelter. And if you can avoid that, that's fabulous. So that's why, you know, that mailbox 3x5 card works so well, because you can always say, well, my neighbor's name is Murphy. So Mr. Murphy lives next door, and I have his number as the number 1 number. And I said to him, if something happens to me, if something happens and I'm not here, and or the ambulance comes or whatever, or I call you, just let the dogs out in the back. I'm a little maniacal about not letting people walk my dogs, because I don't really let anybody walk my dogs, but that's because I'm crazy. But at least you know that if your backyard is fenced in, your dogs aren't going anywhere, but they're getting out. If your cats, your cats might not come out when a stranger is in the house, but at least they'll get fresh water, fresh food, and clean litter box, which is until you get home or until something kicks in, somebody's taking care of them. And so for me, you need that, I always say 5x7 card. You need one of the black Sharpies, these things. You need a black Sharpie, and you need to put on the refrigerator, on the back door, on the front door, and in your car. I just drove my dog Junie to Virginia on Sunday, and in the car, he was in the car with me, in the car, right on the dashboard, I taped a note that said, in case of emergency, these are the 3 numbers of people who are on my way to Virginia. So my husband was like the first 50 miles. My girlfriend Susie was the next 50 miles. And my girlfriend Mary was the next 50 miles. So that I made sure that I had someone along the route. Because if, say, they called Susie, Susie knew that Mary and Jim were on the list, because of course everybody knew I was putting their name on the list, right? So if they got a call, you know, she was involved, God forbid, in a car accident, and this dog is here, and you know, car accidents are a little different. They will be taken to the police department or maybe to animal care and control, because they got to get the dogs off the road. But you definitely want to get there within 24 hours. And unless you have provided information that says, Patty can come and get my dog, and here it is. Here it is right on my dashboard. You know, Connie can come and get my dog. Here it is right on my dashboard. So they have tacit approval to come and take your dog. And so the police will, you know, happily give Connie or Patty my dogs, because I've already proactively said, these are the people who can take my dogs. And Patty and Connie know. And maybe Connie gets the first call, and, you know, she calls Patty because she, you know, and Patty's probably talking to the police then, because Patty's the second number, and they're coordinating how they're going to do it. It's a village, you know, it's a village for our animals. And I love that Renee does dog sitting, and I talk a great deal to, I was the keynote speaker at the International Boarding and Pet Sitting Conference about 3 years ago, and I talked about conflict, and I talked about this because these are sometimes the conflicts that arise, that people want to put you down because they love you as a groomer, they love you as a vet tech, they love you as a pet sitter. But if an emergency occurs, how many dogs can you truly take? So you could say, okay, I can take them, but then I need 2 people that you know that I can then let them go with. So I can be that first line because I'm right here, like my neighbors. And then the second line would be my co-owners, my sons. I always say I love my sons to death. However, my dogs do not like cats because they've never grown up with cats. So one of my sons has Jane, my grandkitty, so none of the dogs can go to him. And my other son rented an apartment in a no-pet building. I said, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative of the fact that you will help me if, God forbid, I fall down. But, you know, children, you just can't make it up. So I hope that this has given all of you a little more information. Please, for the next 5 or 10 minutes, why don't you ask me any question that might have come up, unless I've hit you with a fire hose and you can't even think of questions right now. But I'll be here again next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, so don't worry. Anybody have a question?
Well, I wanted to add a couple of things for people who live in Southern California and have wildfire issues like I do, like we all do. What I've done is I have 4 people in my MAAP plan. 2 are in my breed. In fact, one is my best friend, and the other is another dear friend. They both live 2 hours away, so that if I have to evacuate, number one, I know I can go to each one of them. They understand the breed. You know, it's not a big deal. If they have to take my dogs, they can take them away from the evacuation area. The other 2 friends are right around the corner. And the reason I did the remote friends was because if we all wind up getting evacuated, one is up the hill from me and one is up on PV Drive, Renee. So at any rate, if we all had to evacuate, if the whole hill went up in flames, which is not far-fetched these days, then I could not rely on them. Right. But I still wanted people who were very close in case, you know, God forbid I got sick or something. It wasn't, you know, a major disaster. You know, I could still have people who were very close by who could come in and take care of the dogs. So I kind of have a contingency plan in that regard too. And for people with purebred dogs, I have as the final backup, I have my local breed club, and I was their rescue chair for a while, and also my national breed club. so that they are the permanent backstop. They will always be there, and I can always be assured that my dogs will be taken care of.
Yep. And for you, Polly, you could probably call the breed club, the National Breed Club, and find out what rescue apparatus they have in place as the last ditch effort. You want to give them to someone who you know, who you can check out, who whatever, but you definitely, that's your last form of defense. I am a big proponent. If you have a purebred dog, even if you got it from a rescue or you got it from a pet store, who cares? If it's a purebred dog, just call the purebred rescue of the local club, where there are almost in every state there's one, and also and it's cats too. So it's not just limited to dogs, it's cats too. And you have purebred cats. So those are very special. And those people are really well adjusted to help you find someone who just lost one, who would be a great home. So it's something to check out as well as the neighbors. Patty, if you need help with your horse, the best thing to do is, as Connie said, Southern California has so many rescue groups that are rescuing horses from Texas and Louisiana. New York has a bunch of them as well. Texas has a few, but you really want to go on Twitter, go on Facebook, and look for the rescue groups who are saving the horses from these kill pens, and say, listen, I'd like to donate. If you might not have a lot of money, but if you donate $5, that could save a horse. If everybody donated $5, right? So you're on their list, they know who you are, and you can then say, listen, if something happens to me, I need to know, because I know Gerda does this all the time. They take horses that people have died, and they hold them, they evaluate them, and then they find the perfect home for them. They are out there. You just have to do a little bit of homework, and that's what I've done over the years, because it's been really interesting. I just talked to a group in New York, a woman who's Paws New York, who helps older people and people who've fallen on difficult times feed their dogs and walk their dogs. They're underwritten by, a Petco charity or PetSmart charity, so they're underwritten by them. It's fabulous. And then I also meet all these people. I have a podcast that you all should listen to. It's called Why Do Pets Matter? And in it, I talk to people all the time about behavior, and I talk about making decisions for your pets and how to go about it. I talk to attorneys, I talk to everybody, because it's about why do pets matter. So it's a really well-balanced podcast, and you can find it on iTunes and anywhere else you want to listen to. But it's important to understand that there's somebody here who wants to help you take the time to do this. And if you have people who, like Renee, she has a bunch of dogs that she cares for, and she knows these people are relying on her, and she can only have so many dogs at one time, and she has her own cats. You really need to be imperative. I don't know if any of you remember, it was probably about 5 years ago, there was the video up on Facebook where the little dog was licking the ice cream cone, and the woman was talking and saying, well, Jojo gets the ice cream cone first, right? And then I'll show you why Jojo gets his licks in first while Boxer waits, And when she said, Jojo, are you done? And Jojo sort of shakes his head, says, yeah, I'm done. So the Boxer comes, and the ice cream cone is gone. So it happened. She runs a huge kennel up in Portland that's right outside of Nike, the big Nike headquarters. And she goes, yeah, I have a great business. I have all the Nike people's dogs who come to daycare every day. And I said, do you have a plan for them in case something happens? And, because Portland, I don't know if any of you know this, but they're sort of on the tsunami trail. So you have to be worried about tsunamis in Portland. And
we do too here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll add that to my repertoire of how to survive tsunamis. But in any event, so I said to her, what happens if the tsunami comes and everybody's dog is in your place? Do you have a plan? Do you know where the dogs are going to go? She goes, no. And I said, well, maybe you want to have me in to talk to the Nike people so that we can have them make a plan, because as Renee said, she's only one person. How is she going to take care of all these dogs? And she still hasn't called because, you know, not everybody is as enlightened as Renee and says, wait a minute, I can't take care of all these dogs. And, you know, we will get there. One Wednesday at a time, we will get there. And I'll help everyone do it because it is my passion. After I broke my ankle, I realized we really do have to be proactive about this. Any other questions before I?
Yeah, I got one, Deborah.
Paula, sure.
Listening to what Renee is saying, that she does have a pet sitting service. I do have a regular pet sitter, and luckily the one that takes care of the girls when I'm gone is a former vet tech, and she actually owned Persian cats. So that's why she does so well with them. Would the pet sitter be the first line of communication for someone in case something happened to me while I was on the road, that she could at least get here and check on the cats?
Absolutely. She would be the first one you'd put on, but you have to ask her. You have to say, listen, I'm putting a 3x5 card up in my house and I'd like you to be the first one. Would that be okay with you? I also have 2 other people's names and you have to, so for me, it's redundancy and sharing the information. So if you have 2 other people, if you call the breeder and she says, yeah, Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones have my cats and they're an hour away, then the vet tech would be right there to take the cats immediately. But she knows that Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones are more of a long-term solution if she, if for God forbid you're long-term incapacitated and can't take care of them. Because quite frankly, if you break something like I did, you're going to come home, but this cat sitter can come in every day to feed them or clean their litter box until you can get up and around. So it's not as dire. But if you have COVID and you're in the hospital, really the cats, I don't know, cats I guess don't mind being alone in the house, but I don't think that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I'm facing knee replacement surgery soon, so I'll have her in here taking care of them while I'm sitting, recovering.
And what you want to do is when you make the MAAP plan, you know, this is a whole nother thing. And I'm having another seminar in October where we all sit down for 3 hours on Zoom. I apologize. It used to be in person. But we actually complete the MAAP plan. We complete it from start to finish. But the piece that needs to be done is you need to talk to a trust and estate person and make your will because it's really important.
I've got a will.
Good. So what you need to do is just refer to the MAAP plan in your will and then make a pet trust with just a little bit of money in it. A lot of pet trust attorneys want you to put a lot of money in. And I'm like, no, you don't want to put a lot of money in. And if you're like me, over 60, you want to make that pet trust irrevocable because if at the end of the day, you get sick and you need the money or Medicare needs the money, they're going to claw it back in, so it's not going to be there for your pets. So you need to make the trust irrevocable if you're over 60. It's my opinion. You don't have to take it, but that's what I did because I want to make sure. And I only put like 1,000 or 2,000 in because my theory is if somebody's going to take your dog or cat or bird or horse, they're not taking it because they're going to have a windfall of money from you. They're taking it because you've had this conversation. They know you trust them with your pet, and you want to put in enough money. So, Patty, yours will be a little more money to transport the animal from point A to point B. That's the money you'd put in the pet trust. So at the end of the day, if you live to be 110, and maybe you don't have a dog anymore or a horse or a cat, that money would go not to the pet caregiver. That money would go to the Persian Cat Health Club, you know, the Foundation for Research in Persian Cat, you know, sicknesses, so that they'd get an influx of money. Or they would go to the Wheaton Terrier Club of America's Rescue or Health Club, because every single group has, and Patty, you could donate the money at the end of the day. If you don't have any more horses, it's 1,000 or 2,000. You probably would be more like 5,000 to get the horse from point A to point B. But that would then go to the rescue who would have taken your horse if in fact you still had him and needed their help. I mean, it's always paying it forward, you know, pay it forward. That's my thought. So Paul, that was a great question. Anybody else have a question before I sign off for tonight? I am so grateful all of you are here. Please join us again. I'm here every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. If we change the time back to lunchtime, I'll let you know. But it seems that 7 o'clock might be a good time. And if you could do me a favor, if you could comment on the Irish Setter Club of America or wherever you saw my my plug for this show, it's free. please tell them you attended and I wasn't crazy and I wasn't selling you anything. Because I think people think, oh, this is one of those selling things. You know, if you want to go to the MAP plan and look at what's available for you to do by yourself or do with me, go right ahead. But I think, I'm hoping when you leave tonight, you have a lot of things and a lot of good information that you didn't have before you came. And so it was a worthwhile 45 minutes.
Definitely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Deborah, thank you so much. This has
Thank
been
you, everyone.
so informative.
Thank you all so much. I hope to see you again. Please don't hesitate. info@hamiltonlawmediation.com if you have any questions. And I'm so grateful you all were here. And please kiss your babies for me, especially those cute little Persians. I love them.
They're sleeping now.
Well, he was the only one who had one walk through the picture, and I usually have my Dooney walking through the picture, but he's in North Carolina. Ladies, have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for being here. And if you would share that this is a really good program, so we have a few more people that I can educate next week, I would be grateful.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Deborah.
Good night. Good night, Connie.